As humans, our bodies are constantly having to handle forces from all kinds of different directions and in all sorts of different ways. The ankle is one of the body's primary defenses in absorbing shock from the ground. But what happens if it's not able to do that properly? It's easy to think that our ankles are healthy so long as we can do the basics like running, jumping, and kicking. But just because we haven't rolled or sprained our ankles yet does not mean they're in ship shape. So though it seems small, the ankle actually has some major responsibilities, and we need to know if they're currently doing what they're supposed to or if they're freeloading off the rest of the body and causing trouble. A well-functioning ankle keeps the body balanced and prevents undue forces from being sent up the kinetic chain during dynamic movements. Let's go run some tests to see if they're doing their job. So first up, we're going to be testing the plantar flexion of our ankles with the Seiza position. Now this position is Japanese, and it's actually how the majority of people over there will sit on a day-to-day basis. The goal is to be able to sit in this position for 10 minutes at a time. If you're unable to do that, if you're unable to get in the position at all because the ankles are too tight and it's too uncomfortable or even painful, it means you have limited range of motion in the plantar flexion of your ankle and you have failed this test. If you're able to sit in this position for 10 minutes without ankle pain, you may start to lose the feeling in your legs, but if there's no ankle pain, then you have passed this test. Next, we want to test dorsiflexion of the ankle with the wall test. Now for this test, you want to place your foot a few inches away from the wall and then bring the knee past the toes while keeping the heel on the ground. You want to be able to touch your knee to the wall while maintaining a distance from the wall with your toes of at least 5 inches. More than that would be great, but you want to have at least 5 inches on both feet to pass this test. If you don't, you failed this test. If you do, you passed. And then the final test of the ankle is just a simple balance test. Just stand on the ankle, lift your other leg up, and close your eyes. You're gonna wanna do this on both feet. If you're able to stand in this position for 10 seconds, then you've passed this test. If you're not, then you failed. But keep in mind that a test like this involves other stability muscles of the leg and not only the ankle. So if you fail this test but pass all the others, there could be some other issues along the leg that we'll have to deal with. All right, so after all of these tests, what does it matter? Well, it matters for this reason. If the ankle's not able to function properly, it's obviously going to lead to decreased performance in our sports and our daily lives, but it could even lead to injury. Injuries such as plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendinopathy, shin splints, patellar tendinitis, other hip injuries, and even pulled lower back muscles. So I'm sure some of us, including past me, have failed a good amount of these tests. Well, how did this happen? If the body's supposed to move this way, why aren't we able to anymore? Well, there could be two reasons. The first is a lack of the proper movement in general. We're just not moving our ankles the way they're supposed to often enough, or chronic injury due to repeated incorrect movement of the ankle or striking it in ways, landing in ways that it's not supposed to, such as heel striking when running. The lack of movement could be due to the shoes that we're wearing, keeping our heel elevated in a slightly plantar flex position at all times, which is going to decrease the length of our calf muscles and Achilles tendon, decreasing our ability to get the ankle into a dorsiflex position, at least the full 5 inches away from the wall that we would like to get. So this could sound pretty bad and pretty discouraging, especially if you failed all of the previous tests or even a few of them. But fear not, there are ways to prevent and even fix any of these discovered ankle issues. Follow me. So the quickest and easiest step to start working towards improving ankle mobility and even ankle strength is to stop wearing those comfortable padded shoes all the time. As I mentioned, the angle from the heel to the toe is slightly on a decline, which is going to keep the ankle in that plantar flex position, shortening the muscles necessary for dorsiflexion. You're gonna wanna be barefoot as often as possible to strengthen the muscles and get the ankle moving as much as possible and used to moving dynamically in these positions once again. You're gonna wanna go on intentional walks and eventually runs completely barefoot or at least in barefoot shoes once the ankle and feet have developed enough to be able to do it without pain. We need to build up to that because you will get injured if right off the bat you've been wearing cushiony padded shoes your entire life and you immediately go into a 5-mile run with barefoot shoes or completely barefoot. Another exercise you can do is eccentric calf raises on a slant board. The reason a slant board is important, or a curb or a step or anything that can elevate the toes above where the heel's at, is so that you can get the full stretch and range of motion in the calves and the Achilles tendon when you're moving down from the calf raise. So you want to focus on moving slowly through that eccentric all the way down to the lowest position where you should hopefully be feeling the stretch in the calf and Achilles, and then lift back up into the calf raise position. This exercise is going to strengthen the calf muscles as well as the Achilles tendon that is prone to injury if we have decreased dorsiflexion. The next exercise is the bent knee calf raise. This is going to strengthen the lower part of the calf muscle, or the soleus. For this exercise, you don't need a step. You may need a wall to balance, but you're just going to stand flat on your foot and bend your knee as far past the toe as possible, and then just bend at the ankle. Do a typical calf raise, but keep the knee fully bent with the knee as far past the toe as you can. And this exercise will strengthen the necessary muscles, tendons, and ligaments in the ankle required to push off of the toes constantly when running, cutting, jumping in various sports. The next exercise is going to be tibialis raises. Now this is most easily done when leaning against a wall. If you're doing it on the wall, you're going to want to keep your butt against the wall. The further out you move your feet, the more difficult it will be. If it's too difficult, move the feet a little bit closer to the wall that you're leaning against, and you're gonna wanna lift the toes up while keeping the heels on the ground. You'll very quickly feel the burn in the tibialis muscle, which is the muscle responsible for dorsiflexion of the ankle and helps us brake when moving around dynamically in sports. Next, you wanna get into that Seiza position that we talked about, and you're going to want to do this every day to progress into being able to sit there comfortably for 10 whole minutes. Sounds like a long time, but this position is considered comfortable for the Japanese people, and it's a mobility standard that we should hold ourselves to for increased ankle function. It's also going to be helpful for you to just move the ankle around as much as possible. If you do have to sit for long periods of time, just rotate the ankle, move it around, up, down, left, right, and just get the muscles stimulated in some way so they don't remain dormant and adapt in the way you don't want them to. Next, we have the bent toe stretch, which is going to stretch the joint of the toe to allow it to bend further, as well as lengthen the plantar fascia, which is the muscle at the bottom of the foot. This will allow the arch of our foot to absorb shock more effectively to prevent it from going through the ankles, knees, and the rest of the kinetic chain. So this doesn't explicitly train the ankle, but it does affect it by strengthening the muscles surrounding the ankle. And then finally, if you did fail the dorsiflexion wall test, then you're going to want to determine this one thing. Was your handicap at the front of your foot or the rear of your foot? If you feel a pinch at the front of your foot, you're going to want to do this next exercise daily. Otherwise, if you felt it as a restriction in the calf or the Achilles tendon, then the other exercises we've already mentioned will suffice so long as you do them consistently. So this next exercise to prevent that pinch in the front of the foot during dorsiflexion is a banded talus mobilization stretch. Set yourself up in whatever way is comfortable to move in and out of a dorsiflex position for reps. Take any kind of athletic tape or resistance band. You can even use your own hand if it's all you have to press and push against the talus bone. The reason that block is there is because your talus bone is not sliding and shifting as it's supposed to during dorsiflexion, and it's just staying put, which means your shin bone, your tibia, is hitting directly into the talus when you dorsiflex your ankle. We're gonna try to therapy that talus bone to slide backwards once again. I've been dealing with this in my left ankle for actually quite a while and have seen substantial progress from doing this exercise, and I'm sure you all could benefit as well, even if it's just preventative to keep the talus from malfunctioning. Push with your thumb or the band or whatever you're using against the talus as you move into dorsiflexion. Don't go so far that you feel the pain in the front of the ankle once again, but move as far as possible right before that point where you're feeling the block, and move in and out of the dorsiflex position for at least 10 reps per day. If you do this consistently, you'll see improvement in the movement of the talus bone during dorsiflexion. So now you have the tools necessary to fix or prevent ankle trouble, but we also want to make sure that the ways in which we move in our day-to-day aren't actively working against all the intentional progress we've made in the health and function of our ankles. So you would benefit greatly by clicking on this video here to learn how to improve your running form to prevent any further damage of the ankles. And by the way, this is not just for runners, this applies to all sports as well as just daily life. So I'll see you over there, but before you go, if you found this helpful, please obliterate the like button, subscribe, and comment down below which of the ankle mobility tests you passed or even failed. Go be human.